Zdravstvuyte. In From Russia with Love, James Bond is dispatched to Istanbul. He becomes entangled in a ruse with a young Soviet embassy staffer, Tatyana Romanova. Together, they flee Istanbul with the Lector decoder, a typewriter-like device used for Soviet communications. Stealing the Lector decoder would allow the British to eavesdrop on the Soviet Union.
I've planned for Spectre to steal from the Russians their new lector decoding machine. For this, we need the services of a female member of the Russian cryptograph section in Turkey and the help of the British Secret Service.
This film was one of my parents' first dates, so I owe my life to James Bond, Tatyana Romanova, and the Lector decoder. Released in 1963, From Russia with Love would prove prophetic. It foreshadowed real-life surveillance scandals that unfolded during the Cold War. The story begins with a gift. In 1945, Soviet schoolchildren, young pioneers, hand-carved a wooden plaque of the Great Seal of the United States. They presented it to the U.S. ambassador to the Soviet Union, Averell Harriman. 6 years later, a British radio operator monitoring Soviet frequencies heard something strange. American voices on a Soviet frequency. And one of those voices was Ambassador Harriman. A sweep of the embassy and chancery revealed a bug, not just in the office, but inside the carved wooden seal of the United States. It contained a passive listening device. The young pioneers hadn't given a gift. They delivered a bug.
Here's the seal. I'd like to just show it with the parcel. It's quite a beautiful piece of carving. And you'll note how it opens up into two pieces. Go ahead, open it up. And here is the clandestine listening device.
Then came the fire. In August 1977, flames erupted on the 8th floor of the U.S. Chancery in Moscow. Among the firefighters were members of the KGB in firefighter outfits. After the fire was extinguished, the embassy staff found safes forced open, holes drilled into soundproof rooms, and other evidence of surveillance. The U.S. concluded that the building had reached a point of no return. It was too bugged to salvage. But building a new chancery or new embassy wasn't so easy. The U.S. couldn't just import labor and materials freely. Soviet workers and local materials were used instead, and that was disastrous. The new chancery was even worse than the old one. Concrete columns contained antennae. Fiber optic microphones were embedded in the walls. Even rebar was rigged to act as an aerial. The entire structure was compromised. Eventually, the United States gave up. Several floors were torn off the building and replaced with prefabricated modules shipped from the United States. This attempt at rebuilding the chancery took 23 years and cost US $360 million. Just as the bug-ridden chancery was being evaluated, another breach surfaced, this time from France. In 1983, a technician at the French embassy in Moscow was fixing a paper jam in a Siemens teletype machine. This was a sort of early fax machine that sent messages over phone lines. The technician fixed the paper jam, but he also found a bug.
J'ai réparé le bourrage papier, madame. Mais j'ai trouvé ceci.
Mon Dieu.
France discovered that every teletype machine delivered to the Soviet Union since 1977 had been bugged. At least 5 years' worth of sensitive cables, some of it NATO classified, had been intercepted by the Soviets. France's foreign intelligence agency, the DGSE, or Direction Générale de la Sécurité Extérieure, warned its allies, including the United States, of this intelligence breach. The Soviet Union, unlike the US, was acutely cautious about electronic surveillance. All typewriters were registered. Embassy and chancery machines were covered, switched off, and stored when they weren't in use. The US was more relaxed.
Great!
Typewriters were everywhere. They were left on desks and left plugged in. The overwhelming majority of typewriters in the USA and at US installations abroad were IBM Selectric typewriters. This is an IBM Selectric 2. It was a sleek innovation. Older typewriters used a basket. Metal characters launched forward and slammed into an inked ribbon. A carriage moved the paper horizontally. The Selectric used a type ball, or golf ball. It contained the raised characters, and it could spin and tilt to punch a character into a small ribbon. The Selectric had clean curves, came in different colors, and represented IBM's house style. It was an American style icon.
We're your type for memos and manuscripts, love letters for labels and laundry lists. Your typewriters, IBM for hot texts, for doctor's orders, for company checks, police headquarters, for offices big and businesses small. We're your type.
The news of compromised teletypes from France raised alarm. The US needed to inspect its typewriters. But this was delicate. Many US embassy and chancery staff in Moscow and Leningrad were Soviet nationals. Soviet nationals working at the US embassy in the US chancery? Yes, Soviet labor was cheap, and the Soviet Union restricted the number of Americans it would allow into the country to staff the embassies and chanceries.
I will keep this document top secret. I will ask no questions.
Она лжет.
The State Department assumed Soviet employees were only given low-risk tasks. The US quietly shipped 250 devices, typewriters and teletypes from Moscow and Leningrad to Fort Meade, Maryland for inspection by the National Security Agency, the NSA. To maintain secrecy, replacement devices were sent back in tamper-evident containers overnight. This was called Operation Gunman. In lead-lined rooms, technicians took the machines apart, x-rayed them, and scrutinized every component. A $4,000 prize was offered to the first NSA employee who found a bug, and it took just 4 months. In spring of 1984, an NSA analyst won the $4,000 prize. He spotted black dots along a Selectric's support bar. The dots were radio frequency transmitters. The devices tracked the movement of the type ball, allowing a character-by-character duplication. These transmitters were remarkably discreet. Powered by the typewriter itself, they sent out short, erratic bursts on radio frequencies similar to a television station, making them hard to detect.
Это отдел «Жизнь привидений». Да. Вы знаете, ко мне влетело очаровательное привидение. Приезжайте.
That's correct. We will place the missiles in Greenland and West Germany.
The bugs were brilliant, precise, miniature, and deadly effective. The assumption is that Soviet agents intercepted typewriter shipments, implanted the devices, and repackaged the machines, and they could do this for a single Selectric within an hour. The US declared these discoveries intelligence victories. These weren't victories, these were embarrassments. Each bug revealed not US brilliance, but Soviet ingenuity and American vulnerability. In the aftermath, the US fortified diplomatic supply chains, transitioned to encrypted communications, and finally retired the typewriter. But espionage didn't end with the Cold War. In 1998, the US Department of Defense discovered a digital breach at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio.
Hello, we have come from Circuit City to fix secret radio computers.
Oh, okay. Can I see some ID? Hey, Greg, can I get you fellas some pop, squirt, mellow yellow?
We will have biopsy.
Investigators traced the attack across systems, from the Pentagon to NASA to US defense contractors. The intrusions originated in Russia, now under a new flag, using many of the same tactics. The typewriters are gone, but the spying never stopped. Большое спасибо и увидимся. See you in the next one.
From Russia with love.